Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. A vast silence hangs over human history. Entire libraries, filled with the knowledge of civilizations, have simply vanished. Philosophical treatises, epic poems, and scientific discoveries, lost to fire, war, and time. For centuries, these works were ghosts, known only by brief mentions in other books. But today, a revolution is underway. A combination of cutting-edge technology, dedicated scholarship, and a little bit of luck is pulling these lost voices back from the brink. We are living in an age of return, an era where the silenced words of antiquity are beginning to speak again. This is the story of how lost manuscripts are being returned to history, rewriting our understanding of who we are. To appreciate this incredible return, we first need to grasp the sheer scale of the loss. Before mass printing, every manuscript was a unique, handcrafted treasure, its existence incredibly fragile. The most famous symbol of this loss is the Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BCE, it was the intellectual heart of the ancient world, holding an estimated 40,000 to 400,000 papyrus scrolls. Its end wasn't a single event, but a slow decay. A fire during Julius Caesar's campaign in 48 BCE likely caused damage. A lack of funding and political purges of intellectuals furthered its decline. A sister library in the Serapeum Temple survived longer, but was ultimately destroyed in 391 CE by a mob, a casualty of the Roman Empire's shift to Christianity. Centuries later, another great center of learning, the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, met a more violent end. Established in the 8th century during the Islamic Golden Age, it was a hub of translation and research. But in 1258, the Mongol army sacked Baghdad. The city's libraries were destroyed, and legend says the Tigris River ran black, with the ink of countless manuscripts thrown into its waters. An immeasurable wealth of knowledge in math, astronomy, and medicine was erased in a single, brutal act. These are just two examples. The sack of Constantinople in 1204 destroyed innumerable Byzantine manuscripts, many of which were the last copies of ancient Greek texts. The Spanish conquest of the Americas saw the systematic burning of Mayan codices, leaving us with only 4 known examples of their written language. Even World War II resulted in the loss of over 2,000 medieval manuscripts across Europe. Beyond the drama of fire and war, a quieter destruction was also at work: neglect and reuse. Before paper was common, writing materials like papyrus and parchment were expensive, so they were recycled. When a text was deemed outdated or heretical, the ink would be scraped or washed off and the surface used again. This creates a palimpsest, a manuscript with layers of writing, a new text hiding an older one. This practice was both a cause of loss and, paradoxically, a method of preservation. While countless works were erased, the original text, the scriptio inferior, often remained faintly visible, waiting for the right tools to reveal it. Sometimes, a 13th century prayer book was written over a 10th century mathematical treatise, as we'll see with the famous Archimedes Palimpsest. The journey to recover these texts often begins with a spark of discovery, sometimes by pure chance, other times through years of dedicated searching. The story of the Nag Hammadi Library is a perfect example of an accidental, world-changing find. In December 1945, an Egyptian peasant named Mohammed al-Samman was digging for fertilizer when his spade hit a large clay jar. Inside were 13 leather-bound papyrus books, or codices. Not knowing their value, he took them home, where his mother reportedly used some pages to light a fire. Thankfully, the rest eventually made their way to scholars. What he had found was a collection of over 50 early Christian texts, most previously unknown. These included the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and the Gospel of Truth. They offered a radically different view of Jesus' teachings, revealing a diverse and often contentious early Christian world. They are our primary source for understanding Gnosticism, an influential religious movement that was suppressed by the Orthodox Church. Then there are the dedicated manuscript hunters. The 19th century was their golden age. Konstantin von Tischendorf, a German biblical scholar, was obsessed with finding the oldest New Testament. He traveled to the remote St. Catherine's Monastery at Mount Sinai. In 1844, he claimed he found 43 pages of an ancient Greek Old Testament in a wastebasket, supposedly about to be burned. He acquired them. On a later trip in 1859, he was shown the rest of the Codex, which included the entire New Testament. This manuscript, now called the Codex Sinaiticus, dates to the 4th century and is one of the most important Bibles in existence. The story of how he got it is controversial. The monastery says it was stolen, but its discovery was monumental. Another relentless hunter was the 15th century Italian scholar Poggio Bracciolini. He searched monastery libraries across Germany and Switzerland, and in one, he found the last surviving copy of Lucretius de Rerum Natura, or On the Nature of Things. This foundational work of Epicurean philosophy had a profound influence on the Renaissance. Finding a lost manuscript is just the first step. Often, the text is unreadable, erased in a palimpsest, or damaged by fire and water. This is where modern technology becomes the hero of our story. The Deciphering of the Archimedes Palimpsest is a landmark case. We knew this 13th century prayer book was written over older texts. Back in 1906, a scholar named Johann Heiberg used a magnifying glass to read parts of the hidden writing. He discovered it contained 2 lost treatises by the great Greek mathematician Archimedes, The Method of Mechanical Theorems and Stomachion. The manuscript then vanished, reappearing at an auction in 1998, in much worse condition. The anonymous buyer entrusted it to the Walters Art Museum, where a team of scientists began a multi-year project. Their key tool was multispectral imaging, or MSI. This technique involves photographing the manuscript under different wavelengths of light, from ultraviolet to infrared. Different inks absorb and reflect light differently. The original ink contained iron, while the newer ink did not. By using computers to combine images taken at different light frequencies, the faint traces of the original iron ink could be made to stand out, rendering the invisible visible. The team could read text that was completely hidden before. They uncovered new pages of Archimedes on floating bodies in the original Greek and a previously unknown commentary on Aristotle. The revelations were stunning. But perhaps the most exciting frontier today is the work on the Herculaneum papyri. This is the only intact library to survive from the classical world, a collection of over 800 scrolls carbonized by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. For centuries, they've been a source of immense frustration. They are essentially brittle lumps of charcoal. Any attempt to physically unroll them causes them to crumble into dust. Enter Brent Seals, a computer scientist at the University of Kentucky, and the Vesuvius Challenge, a global competition to read the scrolls. The method they've developed is called virtual unwrapping. First, they create a high-resolution 3D scan of a scroll using X-ray CT, just like a medical scan. This reveals the internal, rolled-up structure. The hardest part is identifying the ink. The ink used was carbon-based, made from soot, making it almost identical to the carbonized papyrus. This is where artificial intelligence comes in. Researchers trained machine learning algorithms on scans of tiny scroll fragments where the ink was already visible. They taught the AI to detect the subtle differences in texture that indicate the presence of writing. In 2023, the Vesuvius Challenge announced a massive breakthrough. A team of student researchers had used AI to decipher the first complete passages from an intact scroll. The text was a previously unknown philosophical work by the Epicurean philosopher Philodemus, discussing the nature of pleasure. This success has opened the floodgates. Researchers are now in a race to virtually unwrap and read the hundreds of other scrolls, promising a new renaissance in our understanding of the classical world. A newer field called biocodicology is adding another layer to our understanding. By analyzing the DNA preserved in parchment, which is made from animal skin, researchers can learn about a book's origins without damaging it. DNA can identify the animal species, like sheep or goat, giving clues about the economy of the time. It can even reveal information about livestock breeding and the historical spread of animal diseases. This biological data, combined with the text, gives us a richer picture of a manuscript's journey through time. Of course, not all lost manuscripts are hidden. Many are in museums and private collections. Taken as a result of theft and colonialism, there is a growing movement to repatriate these cultural treasures. Recently, the FBI returned a 16th century document signed by the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés to Mexico's National Archives. It was one of 15 pages discovered missing in 1993. This return is about more than correcting a historical wrong. It's about restoring a piece of a nation's identity. The return of these lost texts fundamentally reshapes our understanding of the past. The Archimedes Palimpsest, for example, had a profound impact on the history of math. It revealed that Archimedes had a grasp of the concept of actual infinity, a cornerstone of modern math we thought wasn't developed until the 19th century. His work on the Stomachian puzzle is now seen as the first work in combinatorics. He was even further ahead of his time than we knew. The Nag Hammadi library had a similar effect on our understanding of early Christianity. The Gnostic Gospels revealed a more diverse, mystical form of the religion, where personal spiritual knowledge, or gnosis, was valued over doctrine. These texts showed alternative narratives about Jesus' life, with a greater role for figures like Mary Magdalene. This discovery forced a re-evaluation of early Christian history, showing it wasn't a single movement but a vibrant collection of different beliefs. The work on the Herculaneum papyri is just beginning, but it holds the promise of a similar revolution. The library likely contains a vast collection of Greek philosophical texts, many of which are otherwise lost. As we read more, we may fill huge gaps in our knowledge of ancient philosophy, science, and literature. The story of lost and returned manuscripts is a powerful reminder that history is not a static, settled narrative. It's a living thing, constantly being revised and enriched by new discoveries. In quiet archives and on glowing computer screens, the whispers of the past are growing louder. The return of these voices is more than just a recovery of old texts. It is a recovery of a part of ourselves, a deeper and more complex understanding of the long journey that has led us to this moment. The hunt is far from over, and with each new decipherment, a new chapter in the human story begins.